So, what do you do when the love is just gone? I don't just mean faded. I mean it's been replaced by something hard, like resentment. Today, we're going to dig into a really powerful, maybe even radical idea. How to love someone who feels, well, unlovely.
And this isn't just some philosophical question. A woman named Anne actually asked this. I mean, can you imagine? After years and years of hurt, her marriage just felt completely dead. All she had left was this hollowed-out feeling, this resentment, and she really had to know, is there any way back from that?
Okay, so how does that even happen? How do you go from being in love to feeling nothing, or worse than nothing? It really comes down to a super simple but powerful metaphor, the empty love tank. The whole idea is pretty straightforward. Just picture your heart, your emotional core, as a kind of gas tank. And to feel happy, to feel secure in your relationship, that tank has to be full. It needs to be filled with love from your partner. It's not just a nice to have, it's a deep, fundamental human need to feel wanted and appreciated.
And here's the critical part. When that tank runs dry, the space isn't just empty. It's not neutral. That vacuum gets filled, and fast, with hurt, with anger, with real, genuine pain. And that is exactly where Anne was. Her love tank had been running on fumes for so long, all she could feel was the ache.
So this brings us to a massive shift in how we think about love. What if, just what if, love isn't only that warm, fuzzy feeling that just happens to us? What if it's something you can actually choose to do, even when the feeling isn't there at all?
This really breaks it down. On one side, you have that in-love feeling. You know the one. That effortless, euphoric high. It's absolutely amazing. But here's the thing. It has an average lifespan of about 2 years. Then on the other side, you have real love. The kind that's a conscious choice. It's deliberate. It's an action you take for someone else. One is like temporary magic. The other is a commitment that can actually go the distance. You know, this idea has been around forever. This piece of ancient wisdom is really the foundation for it all. It suggests that loving actions aren't just possible, but they're encouraged, even when our feelings are the complete opposite. So the thinking goes, if it's possible to do good for an enemy, couldn't it also be possible to do good for a spouse who, right now, kind of feels like one?
So with this wild idea in mind, Anne decided to try something. A radical experiment, really. The hypothesis was this. What if, for 6 months, she actively tried to fill her husband's love tank? Maybe, just maybe, he would eventually start to give back, and their marriage could have a second chance. So here was the game plan, broken down into 5 simple steps. First, just state your intention. She told her husband she wanted to be a better wife. Second, she took a guess at his primary love language. Third, she just started doing it, consistently speaking that language with her actions. Fourth, she'd check in once a month. You know, how am I doing? And finally, the moment she saw even a little bit of a positive sign, she'd make one small request of her own. Okay, so what did this actually look like day to day? Well, Anne guessed her husband's top love languages were physical touch and words of affirmation. And this meant she had to do things that felt completely unnatural to her at the time. She stopped the nagging, all of it. She started initiating physical intimacy, even when she just felt used and unloved. And she forced herself to look for things to compliment him on, even when her heart was just screaming with criticism. I mean, that is an incredible act of will, going completely against every feeling in her body.
So the big question, did this unbelievably hard choice actually pay off? Let's take a look at what happened with Anne's experiment.
Now, this was not an overnight miracle, not at all. For that first month, her husband was just dismissive, kind of skeptical, but Anne kept at it. Then, at the end of month 2, the breakthrough. He gave her the first tiny piece of positive feedback. And from that point on, as she kept filling his tank, he started to respond to her small requests. And as he began to change, something amazing happened. Anne's own feelings of love, they started coming back.
It was absolutely transformative. By making the choice to love her husband in his language, Anne filled his emotional tank. And once his tank was full, he finally had the capacity to reciprocate, to start feeling hers. That whole vicious cycle of resentment was broken. Their marriage wasn't saved by some magic feeling appearing out of nowhere. It was reborn because one person made a very difficult, very courageous choice.
Anne's story is just, well, it's proof that even in what feels like the most broken, hopeless situations, love as an action can pave a way forward. It suggests that the power to change everything might not be in our feelings, but in our hands. And it really leaves us with one powerful question to think about. What if your miracle is just a choice you haven't made yet?